Quit porn to increase your brain and sexual health. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh, and welcome to this video with our new improved visuals on the other side of my office. Today we are going to break down the essential components for you to become a healthy partner, and so that you can attract or help your partner heal and become healthy also. So these columns, healthy and unhealthy, can be for you or your potential or current partner. We're going to break it down. At the same time, you're going to learn a few things about me. Number one, like most 40-somethings, I can only write cursive. It takes me a literal week to print. So we will have to adapt to my cursive writing. I will interpret it for you. Number two, I am the worst drawer in the world. Those are brains. So let's break it down. What makes it so that you have a healthy big brain, as my teenagers say, or an unhealthy little suboptimal brain, as I say? Because when we talk about quitting pornography, what we're talking about is healing the structure, the size, and especially the functioning of your brain. And that will make you a healthier partner, and literally it will change, wait for this, ready? It will change the electromagnetic field around your brain and your body, making it go from unhealthy to healthy. And when you become healthy, you attract. And when you're unhealthy, you repel. So that is what we are talking about. Let's break it down. Number one, we're talking about emotional maturity. Now, in my 90-day program, the whole program is designed to take you from emotionally immature to emotionally mature. Because when you can handle difficult emotions, and you're going to see more of these components have to do with emotional maturity, when you can handle difficult emotions, you can move towards them. You don't need to go to pornography or sexual acting out to regulate your mood. We've covered in other videos that the number one reason that people consume pornography is to take the edge off of stress and anxiety, to regulate their mood, to bring their brain down, to control that feeling, that hyperarousal feeling inside. So when you are emotionally mature, your big brain is using electrical energy in the middle, calm focus, literal medium speed, which makes you feel good, relaxed, you're able to think, and you don't feel edgy fresh, nor do you feel bored or overwhelmed. That's what we're talking about. So the way to go from being an unhealthy little brain partner is to grow up your emotional maturity. A number one way you can do that is stop watching pornography. Your brain will unwire that pattern that we know from science is an underdeveloped brain pattern. It will start developing on its own. But when you rewire your brain, you then are helping it to wire itself in the direction of emotional maturity and big brainness. Okay, what's next? Self-awareness and self-assurance. So when you're self-aware, you know how you're feeling at that moment, and you can reassure yourself that it's okay. You don't have to run into anything else, marijuana, drugs, alcohol, TV, Instagram, Facebook, pornography. You don't have to run into something to help you feel better about your existence and take the edge off. So when you're self-aware, you can go, I feel anxious right now. And then you can move towards healthy regulation, healthy activities like going for a run or going to the gym. When you're unaware or you're unassured, what happens is you don't know what you're feeling. You aren't tapped into your body and your mind. And we know that from frequent, consistent, and especially intense pornography consumption, it puts your brain out in the extremes so that you become less aware of what's happening in your internal state. And your brain swinging that pendulum of high and low energy that drives you back into the screen. That's why when you leave porn behind, your energy can center a bit, and you can become more aware of what's going on with you. And you also can regulate yourself, which leads us to the next point, is that you can feel self-assured and feel calm and know that it's all okay. And even if you have difficult emotions, you can move towards them and solve them, still knowing that it's going to be okay. Self-regulation comes from neurological regulation, big brainness. So when your brain's in a healthy spot and that energy's in the middle, you can self-regulate. If you get anxious, you can bring yourself down. If you get overwhelmed, you can clear that. If you get bored, you can engage. Engagement's a big word for this healthy column. So self-regulation is being able to regulate yourself within different environments and regulate your internal environment. Calm yourself down when you need to, engage yourself and get yourself going when you need to. People who are unhealthy have low self-regulation skills, and they look to other people to help them regulate, or they go to other things to regulate that internal state that they are not in control of. And that's why I always use the tagline, control your brain or it will control you. Because when your brain is not neurologically regulated, it's out in the extremes, little brain, you are unable to bring that energy back into the middle easily. And honestly, that's what the brain training headband does for you, which is why it's a great first line of defense if you really are swinging between anxiety and overwhelm. So self-regulation's low in an unhealthy partner. Now remember, I want you to think about this for yourself. Are you able to self-regulate? Likely not if you're still consuming pornography. But also when you go to approach a partner, or if you're in a partnership, can your partner bring him or herself down? Can your partner engage with the world? This is what we're thinking about. These columns are for both you and a potential or current partner. Okay, so moving on to being present or mindful. Mindfulness is a really important component. It's being able to take your environment in and to stay present, stay out of your head. Enjoy the beauty of this beautiful office space that's calm and relaxed and staying in the present with me instead of going off to the past or the future. And check this out, mindful with a double L. If your mind is full of stuff from the past, tasks that are time oriented in the present/future, things you have to do, which really is future. If your mind is filled with the past and the future, it's virtually impossible for you to settle into the present. That's what creates anxiety and overwhelm. I love the Baz Luhrmann song. You might have heard me say this. I was just telling the Hubs about it the other day because our poor dog has a back issue. And, he went to bed and was totally fine. The next morning, he can't walk. And in the Baz Luhrmann song, what's it called? Something about sunscreen. Everyone should wear sunscreen. It's a cool song. And so he talks about how, when your worried mind is busy with all the anxieties of the future that likely will never happen, you get blindsided on a Tuesday by a thing that your worried mind never saw coming. And that's what I'm talking about here. Your mind is full of the things you need to do, or the worries of the future, or the regrets of the past, so you can't stay present. And what that does is it drives you towards escapism because it's making self-regulation very difficult because your brain is not regulated. It makes it difficult for you to regulate your internal state, which then creates more emotional immaturity where you blow up and you're angry or you're irritable or you're stressed out or you just disengage and go off to escape because it's difficult being in the present. When you stay in the present and you're not worried about the past and the future, you can calm your nervous system, calm and focused. Okay, moving us on to intimacy and vulnerability. When you're healthy, you're self-assured, which means you feel good about yourself. Your self-worth is high. You don't have to go to somebody else to validate you. You're internally validated. You feel good about yourself. So when you feel good about yourself, then you can open yourself up to a potential partner, or you can open yourself up to your partner and become vulnerable. Vulnerable is we see it as weakness. It's actually a strength. And I want you to think about this for a second, because when someone's vulnerable, they're strong enough to let somebody in and see all of them. The rare person can do that. The strong person can do that. It is not a weakness. It is a strength. So when you can be vulnerable and move towards another person, and skipping down a little bit, you can open yourself up and count on another person. You're not dependent on them, but you can count on them, and you can open yourself up and let them see you for what you are. And there's fear of rejection at first, but you will then, if the person is healthy, remembering both these columns are both people, if the person's healthy, they can see you as a whole person who's flawed, because aren't we all, right? But wonderful all at the same time. Okay, so then if you are not vulnerable, or you can't allow yourself to have intimacy with another person, you're closed off and protective. And we know when it comes to pornography consumption that fear of intimacy and an intimacy difficulty or disorder or challenge is at the root of it, because you go into pornography for seeming intimacy, but it's actually isolation. And it's actually you trying to get your sexual needs met without having to involve another person, which is not intimacy, it's isolation, and it's too much self-dependence and not connection with others. So when you're intimate and you are able to have intimacy, you can count on others, but you're also self-assured and you feel confident. And it is definitely a balance to be achieved, and something to work on a moment-by-moment basis, I will also tell you. Okay, so when you can be vulnerable, and when you are healthy, when you become a healthy emotional and sexual partner, you're open, you're honest, and you're whole. You don't have to lie. You don't have to compartmentalize. You don't have to hide things, because you've become vulnerable to become invulnerable. Once you're vulnerable, there's nothing that can hurt you, because you're an open book. When you're an open book, nothing can come at you that you can't handle. That's the essence of it. You become vulnerable to become invulnerable. Then you can take your armor off. You don't need the shields of protection that you would have to put on to close you off and to hide the parts of you that you're not sharing. Do you see how it all works together? It's a beautiful thing if you can accomplish it. And it all leads to emotional maturity and a healthy brain and a healthy sex life and a healthy partnership. That's the reality of it. So when you're closed off and you're protective, and we know at the root of addiction, what happens is then there's control and manipulation issues. Now, addiction fights to stay alive, and inherent in it is manipulation. There's izing. I've made a video where it's, rationalizing and minimizing and justifying. And if you're doing all of those things, it's because something's hidden and you are not vulnerable and you're not actually achieving intimacy. You're not regulating yourself well. Your self-awareness is probably low, your emotional maturity is low, and your brain is not healthy. You can see how all this works together. But if you're an open book and you're feeling strong and confident and your self-worth is intact and you can allow yourself to be open to another and they see you for who you are and love that person, now there's no control or manipulation. And I encourage you to think about this in your partners too. There's so much control happening in relationships. The control happens through all of these underlying, flying under the radar behaviors. And it leads to poor communication. Communication is essential. Communication and interaction style, which leads us to a balanced interaction style in a healthy partner. So balanced interaction is listening, talking, not controlling, not telling another person what they should do, being able to be there for people, hold space for them, give them suggestions, encourage them, not strong arm them, not need to know where they are at every minute, not need to text them back and forth so that you can be validated that your relationship is still there. When you feel assured, you have a balanced interaction style, and it leads to healthy attachment. And going back to security and insecurity, which I skipped, by the way, when we're talking about security, that is attachment style. So secure attachment is that you know that you have a healthy, strong relationship. There's no fear that it's going to end on a moment's notice, because a healthy partner would never do that. Even if, the sand hits the fan, like in The Big Lebowski, right? When it hits the fan, you can count on your partner to go to work on the sand instead of going against you. So you feel secure. So your partner can go into the world and do his or her thing, and you feel okay about that. You don't have to check on them 50,000 times when they're out. You know it's going to be fine. They're going to go out and they're going to come back. That's what secure attachment is. Or if you go out, you can go out into the world, do your thing, and come back and know it's safe to come back. It's safe at home and it's okay to go explore. And when you do that, you have a healthy, secure attachment style in your relationship, which makes you feel strong and safe and secure. The opposite of that in an unhealthy partnership is when one partner goes out into the world, they feel insecure. There's anxiousness, which might produce avoidance in the other. And the dynamics are this push and pull. And it becomes a control issue, but control is to gain safety. And we know when people go into a pornography habit, it's to gain seeming safety. It's to help you calm your nervous system down to feel okay in the moment, but we know it produces more stress and anxiety. Okay, so moving on to, in a healthy relationship, we have balanced interaction style, give and take, go and come, receive and share an experience. And when we have a poor interaction style, I just put down two different ones, anger and ignore. So in a poor interaction style, communication is not happening well. And communicating your feelings and your thoughts is difficult, and especially if your emotional maturity isn't high and you don't know what you're feeling or thinking, it's difficult to communicate that. Even if you know what you're feeling and thinking, it becomes very difficult to share that with another person because of the vulnerability and the intimacy piece. But when you communicate your thoughts and your needs and your feelings, and you can do it without getting angry, without having too much fear, there might be a little bit there, some risk might be involved. But when you do that, you develop a healthy partnership because you become healthy through your interaction style and your communication, and your partner becomes healthy because they have to receive what you've said, be able to process it and digest it, listen, and then offer you space to be yourself with no control, without controlling each other's outcomes. Very difficult for many people. So what happens is, if you're able to do those things, you can stay in reality. So when your brain is healthy and you feel strong and assured, and your nervous system's in the middle and it's not swinging between anxiety and overwhelm, and you feel calm and you feel safe in your relationship or in a potential budding relationship, you're not overly anxious, you're not under engaged, then what happens is you can stay in reality. Reality is a great place, and you don't need to disassociate into fantasy. When you go to fantasy thoughts, it's disassociation. It's you leaving the present to go somewhere else, fantasy, and it is not healthy. If you go to fantasy, you are definitely not an healthy emotional or sexual partner, because of everything that's here. When you go to fantasy, it's because you need to leave your reality. So the onus of that, the onus of control there, is for you to fix these things so that you can stay in your reality. And when you do that, you will develop compassion and empathy. And we know that developing empathy and feeling good about yourself so that you can understand how other people feel, but not get sucked into other people's feelings, being able to be a safe place for that because you're strong and you're whole and you're healthy. You don't need another person to fill your holes. You're doing that yourself. You're internally validated. Then you can stay in reality, be healthy. But if you escape into fantasy, then what happens is your reality is a tricky place. And what it can result in is, instead of compassion and empathy, it results in resentment or aloofness. You're doing things that you don't want to. There's push and pull, going back to that control and manipulation. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dr. Trish, I thought you were going to talk about being a healthy sexual partner. First, I'm going to talk about being a healthy emotional partner. And I haven't mentioned sex here, but this all translates into your sexual relationship, because if you haven't established these healthy patterns for yourself and you're lingering in these unhealthy patterns, it is very difficult to have healthy sexuality, because at the root of it is emotional needs, and we know that. And so many people, when they are wrapped up in pornography or sexual acting out or hypersexuality, they're going to sex to regulate these emotional needs. So you have to get the emotional needs under control. Now, let's put a brain tip at the end of this video, this longer visual included, nice representation of brain's video. An action step is contemplate these pieces and see where you're at. Do you feel strong and whole on the inside? If not, why? And what can you do about it? Do you feel self-aware? Do you know what you're feeling, and do you know what to do about it instead of going to porn or sex? Can you self-regulate? And offense is the best way to self-regulate. Put beautiful systems and routines and discipline in place so that you stay in the middle. That's the way through, right? Feeling good all the time so your reality is an awesome place so you don't need to escape. When you interact with your partner or anybody, if you don't have a partner, you can think about potential partners, or you can just think about your relationships with your friends, with your parents, with your work employees. Can you stay in the middle? Can you be that person who doesn't have to dramatize things, but can hear difficult things and not need to run away from them? When something comes your way, can you approach? Can you engage instead of disengaging? That's what I want you to think about here, because these are the pieces. Are you dependent, but not too independent, where you're trying to do everything for yourself without connection, but not too dependent that you're having other people do everything for you? We know codependency or disengagement on the two opposite sides of the extremes is at the root of a pornography or sex problem, hypersexual problem. In the first place, codependency is you're looking for too much validation from a partner or from the world. Disengagement is you're like, F you world, I'm going to go figure it out for myself. I don't need anybody. I got this. Both of those are extremes. We need to come into the middle where you feel calm, cool, and collected, but you have connection with other people. It's balanced. Okay, so look down these items on the list and evaluate yourself, because you need to get as many of these in line on the healthy big brain side. And when you do, literally your brain becomes healthier and it changes your electromagnetic field, and you will draw to you the partner of your dreams. It works that way. I know you think I'm feeding you something. I'm not. It works that way. When you become healthier, you attract a healthy partner to you. Okay, so as always, control your brain or it'll control you.